Hello. How are you doing tonight? I hope you're doing good. Tonight we're going to do the brick stitch, which people either love or hate, and we're going to do the blanket or buttonhole stitch, okay? They're super simple, very similar, blanket or buttonhole stitch. They look almost exactly the same, and those are the two we're going to do today. So what I've got is the blanket stitch the brick stitch I've done here on this little section. And then we're going to do the buttonhole stitch or blanket stitch, whichever one you prefer. I'm just looking for a colored pen. This one. Here and here. Okay. I also have it down here at the bottom, this little section here, but I might change that because I don't really love how it looks on mine, but we'll just see what happens. So we're going to start with brick stitch first, and then we're going to go to the other one. So you're going to need all 6 strands. It's also really good if you have 2 different colors of pen, okay? Because to do a brick stitch, you do not need to have 2 different colors of pen, but it's just easier to explain if you have 2 different colors, okay? Let me just see about some music, and then we'll get started. Okay, so when I do brick stitch, we're going to do all 6 strands. I'm going to use this yellow color, a nice cherry yellow. I'm not going to fill the whole space because that will take forever, but you'll get it, I promise, okay? Also with this, don't make your stitches too small or you're going to be here for absolute ages, making the tiniest little stitches, okay? So just have a think about that. So here we go. We're going to go straight along this line like this. And then for the next row of stitches, we're going to offset our stitches like bricks. So if you can imagine little bricks that are next to each other like this, the next one is normally in the middle of this one and the middle of this one. Yeah, they're kind of offset. So what I like to do is make lines down my pattern so that I can follow the lines and follow the colors. And that way I know that all of my stitches are going to line up, okay? And look like bricks. So let's do the first row first. Dear. I'm going to zoom in just a minute. Hold on. That's pretty good. Okay. I'm going to make my stitches quite big for this one because I don't want to be here all night. But again, I'm not going to do the whole section. So you'll have to finish the section yourself. So all we're doing is a regular back stitch for this first part. All 6 strands I'm using. How did everyone get on with the stitches from yesterday? Did you have a good time? Were they difficult? What did you think? Okay, so I've done my first row. Okay. For the next row, I gotta add some lines first. So my first row I'm gonna do in red. So every single place where you have the place where 2 stitches meet, you're gonna do a line straight down. Okay? It's gonna go right off the edge. Okay, and then I'm gonna just kind of guess from here to the next one, okay, because we have a big space here and we do not want to be making stitches that go from here all the way to the end because these are bigger than our stitches. Yeah, so I'm just gonna guess maybe like that. Okay, the next one we're gonna go in between these stitches. Okay, so just one row down like this. I like to start on the bottom, right in the center. I'm just going to zoom in a bit more so that you can see. Hopefully. I can always tell when it's not quite right because it starts to get a bit grainy. Okay, so right in the middle of this one, we're going to run into the cloud there. Okay, that's like a little half stitch. And then this one from the middle of this one, again, the row down, but you're going to put your needle up in the middle. Okay, so this stitch here should be the same length as this stitch here, just kind of offset like a brick. And then we're going to go and do the rest of the line exactly the same from the middle to the middle. And then we're going to do our next set of lines in a different color. It's warm in here. It actually rained like all day today almost. There we go. Robin says they were easy to complete. Well, that's good. I'm glad that you found them simple. Having the lines are game changers. I think so too. It makes it so easy to just follow the lines instead of trying to get it exactly in the middle, because once you get one messed up, all the other ones tend to get messed up. Okay, so I'm going to choose another color. We'll do blue, not green. Maybe you'll see it a little bit better. Okay, so our next lines, obviously you can't use red or else it's just going to look like a bunch of red lines. Okay, so don't use the same color twice. Get two different colors if you have them. If you have to do a pencil, just do a little pencil for each one, or you can do a straight line and you can do a dashed line or a dotted line. Okay, if you only have one color. Let's do the next one. So the next one, again, a straight line down in between each one. Now, obviously, if you're really good at judging how long your stitches are, and oh my gosh, this is the worst. If you're really good at judging how close together your stitches are, then you don't need to do this, okay? This is only for those people who you get kind of, as you go along, you get a little bit longer, a little bit longer, a little bit longer, or instead of being right in the middle, yeah, you tend to go like a little bit to the side and then a little bit to the side, and then all of a sudden they look like your bricks like got away with you, like they're away from you, like they're like sinking in the ocean or something, you know? Okay, so now as we go back, we're going to go back to the first row, follow the same. This is very, what's going on here tonight? It's like quite grainy on my screen, like dark. Right, so we've done the first row was red, then the second row was the blue one. Okay, now the third one's going to be red again. So again, straight here, and you're going to follow your red one. So you just want one space apart, kind of a thread length. You want them to lay right next to each other, but we're following the red line this time. Now, these are heat erasable pens that I'm using, so even if you see a little bit between the stitches, once I erase it, you're not going to see it anymore. And I can erase it with heat when I'm finished. And then as we go do the next row, we're going to go back to the blue. And then I'll get really close so you can see what I mean with the brick look. So really the only tricky part after this is going to be these little weird bits at the end. Yeah. But you just have to pretend that this is a straight line that goes straight from here all the way down. Okay. So as you're going down, you might have some that only go like from the red line to there, and you'll do a tiny little stitch just to kind of fill the shape, or maybe the blue line to there. Yeah. Just a tiny little half stitch, maybe just to fill up the shape. The same from over here. You might be on the red line and go all the way to the end, but then the next blue one is very, very tiny. That's okay. All right. So please don't stress out about that. Let me see if yeah. You can see here, they get a bit wonky because I didn't use the lines. I didn't follow my own rule. So over here, they get a bit stacked. Yeah. But if I zoom in really closely, you can see that they are like 3 rows of bricks. Yeah. So hopefully, yeah, it's literally just because I'm zoomed in too far. All right, let me go like this instead. Maybe that'll be a bit better. Okay, so now we were on red. So now we're gonna do blue. And like I said, I always like to start from the middle. You can't even see. And go over. Now, if anything, you can go a little bit into the cloud because we're going to cover all of that up later. So if you feel like, ooh, that's a bit weird, we're going to be covering all of that up. So don't worry if it's a little bit like a little wonky, a little strange looking, anything like that. And then we just go straight across. We're on blue now. And then we'll go to red after. Hi, Sarah. So I'll do like one more row of this, and then we'll move on to blanket stitch, and then that is all we're doing today. Another easy peasy day. Okay, and then now we're going back to red. So we've done red, blue, red, blue. Now we're going to follow the red line again. So we're doing brick stitch, all 6 strands. It's just rows of back stitch that are alternating like bricks. You can do the thread saver method if you want to, or you can do just the regular, regular back stitch. You can also do horizontal lines if you really feel like, wow, I cannot even make a horizontal line. Like I can't even make my stitching back stitch straight. That's okay too. Okay, I've got that issue right here as well. You can do horizontal lines if you want to. Just make sure that you make them in a different color so that you're not getting confused. Do you know what I mean? Because the worst part is when you're stitching and all of a sudden you're like, where do I go? I've made all of these bloody lines and I can't figure out which ones go where. Which has also happened to me before. When I'm like, I've got a bit of a problem now. All right, let's zoom in one more time. And then, how beautiful is that? And if you notice, I'm trying not to make my thing fall over, but if you notice, all of these ones here are on this line, and then all of these ones here are on this line, okay? So all of your stitches should correspond to one line or another. Yeah, either the red one or the blue one that we put in at the beginning. So just doing the lines makes it so much easier to kind of keep track of where you're going and where you're stitching, and making your bricks stack nicely like bricks. Okay, if there's no questions about this one, I'm going to move over to the blanket stitch or the buttonhole stitch. People call them different things. Yeah, they're very similar. And for this one, I'm actually going to separate my threads. So I'm going to show you how to separate your threads as well, because this space is quite small for this line and for this line. So we just need to do them a little bit smaller. We also are supposed to do it down here like that, but I might change that one. So if you don't feel like it, don't do it. All right. So what we're going to do is separate our threads. So there's two different ways that you can separate your threads. One way is to pull one strand out, okay, hold it, and then hold all the other ones, and you're just going to pull. Right? So if you need 2 strands, you pull 2 strands out and you put those back together to make one piece of thread that you're going to work with. That's 2 strands thick, okay? Think of your thread like thickness. Yeah? You don't want to write a really, really, really tiny word with like a really thick highlighter, because all of your letters are going to be smashed together, okay? It's just the same as thread. You want to be able to see your lines clearly, and that's why we use more or less threads depending on how thick we want our line to fill in the shape, okay? So the other way is what I call the Y method. This is not like it's not a technical method. It's literally just what I call it. And that is separating out all of your threads. Something is loose. I can't figure out what it is. And that is separating out the number of threads that you want all at one time. So you're not going 1, 1, 1 and putting them together. You're going to do, if you want 3 strands, you're going to separate out 3, and then the rest of them you're going to put to the side, and it's going to look like a Y. Okay? So like this. Now the benefit of doing it this way for me is that the threads tend to kind of stay a little bit twisted, so they don't become untwisted and lay together like this all in a row. Now when you do satin stitch, a lot of people like to take out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and then put all 6 back together, because then they'll lay more like this, kind of flat all together, instead of all twisted like in one section. Okay, so something to think about as you're working. Some people like it, so this is what I mean. I've got 3 strands here and 2 strands here because I've taken one out, and I just kind of untwist like this, and it makes a little Y, which is why I call it the Y method. There's really no other reason. Okay, I'm also going to change to a smaller needle, the needle I use for 3 strands. Okay, and let's put these strands on the needle, and we can get started. This one is super, super easy. Some people get a little bit confused though, because it's not like a regular stitch where you just kind of go forward. You've kind of got to go up, then down, then up again, then down again, then up again, then down again, then up again, then down again. And it's going to make sense, I promise. I'm just putting a knot in now. Okay, so where you're going to put these is right here along this little section that we literally just did. And then you're going to put it up here like that. Okay? And what we're going to do is make little backwards, well, they're going to look like 7s. Okay, you're like an upside down backwards L if you want to be like super, specific. So you're going to start here at the top. Let me zoom in because you actually do need to see this one quite clearly. You're going to start at the top, okay, the top row. And then you're going to go down across the way, okay? So think of your 7 like that. Yeah? Think of your 7 like that. So you're going to come up here, down here, yeah? Leave a loop, and then come up here again, and then down here, leave your loop, come up here, down here, leave your loop, and it's going to make a little, like, open boxed bottom, a bunch of 7s in a row, okay? That's what it's going to look like. So, where you put your next stitch down is how wide these boxes are going to be, okay? So again, if you put it down kind of like this, they're going to be quite small and almost like square-like. But if you put it like this here, you can have them really long and short, like that. Or you can have them really, really small, almost like little rectangles. All right? So where you put your needle down, that is going to be the size of your 7. Okay? I hope that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to put mine kind of like that. And where you want to come up is right above where you went down. Okay? So we're not going over, like way over to the side. So for example, let me get out another needle so that you can kind of see what I mean. Get out. Okay, so if I came up like over here, it's going to look like that. Yeah? We don't want it to look like that. We want it to be straight down. So it makes like a little box, okay? Like a little right angle, like that, okay? So also that means we don't want to come too close to where we initially came up, because otherwise it's going to look like a backwards R almost, you know? So it's going to be curved, okay? Not me over explaining everything. I don't know her. I explain way too much. But I think sometimes you need to know, okay? You need to know, like, what should you not do or what to look out for. So I tend to go straight up from where I came down to make that little box. And I like to pull it up when I do it. Okay? So whenever I do mine, I'm holding the loop like that and I'm pulling it up this way. Yeah? Like that. So you get little boxes. Okay? So I like to hold it up like this, down in my next one, and then up again where I'm going to go. Now these all don't have to be the same. Obviously, if we're doing like a felt outline or something like that for like felt ornaments, we would want them to be very uniform. But there's also something really quite artistic with doing some thicker, some thinner, some wider, you know what I mean? Some farther apart. You can have some that are quite close together and then some that are farther. Like, you can do it in all kinds of ways. So for this particular project, you don't have to make them exactly the same, okay? You can have some that are really close together, some that are really far apart. You can have a nice mix of the two. So say you have a box like that, and then you have maybe 2 small ones and then a big one, and then 2 small ones and a big one. That can look really pretty as well, all right? So please, 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 don't fret if you're like, oh my goodness, I can't make these all the same. This looks a mess. It's okay. You can use that to your advantage almost. You could do a little pattern. You can do it like that on purpose. Make it a little bit offset, etc. Okay? So, play around. Also, you have 2 chances to do it. So you can do one way and one, I'm going to move this over in just a minute, okay? Promise. one way and one the other way. Okay, meaning you can do one kind of even, all even together, and then the next one you can do them more spaced out, or a little pattern. So play around with it. And really that's it for today. So we've just done those 2 stitches. We've done a brick stitch with 6 strands, and we've done this buttonhole stitch, or blanket stitch some people call it. Apparently they are different, but then every time I see them they look very similar to me. So okay, so when we finish this, because you see how mine's finished, it's like a little slope like that. Okay, the cloud is going to cover that, but when we finish it, you're going to come up again. I'm just going to come up here, yeah, and you're kind of like, Tori, where do I go now? Okay, all you're going to do is put a tiny little stitch right on the other side of that thread. Do you see? Put a tiny little stitch there, a little tacking stitch just to kind of hold that in place, and then you're done. Okay, I'm just going to zoom in again so you can see what I mean. So all I've done is I just did a tiny little stitch just to hold that in that 7 kind of position, and then this is what it looks like. Yeah. So today, again, we've done the brick stitch, fill the whole section. Okay, that's the only section for brick stitch. And then we're going to do the blanket or buttonhole stitch here, and you're going to do it along this line right here. Okay, now there's going to be something right next to it, so it doesn't matter if you turn it like this and do your 7s like that, or if you turn it like this and do your 7s like that. It doesn't matter because they're going to be covered. Okay, so please, please, please don't worry about which way you do it. Okay, so that's it. That's all for me. We've done our 2 stitches. I hope you have a lovely time stitching tonight. Again, if you are not finished with yesterday's stitches, do not worry. You do not have to be. You can work on any part of the pattern at any point in time. You do not have to be, quote unquote, caught up in order to start the next bit. Okay? Promise. It's not a big deal. Just do what you can. And I hope that you're enjoying it. So yeah, I'll see you later tomorrow. And yeah, happy stitching. Bye.